back to the enclosure. Today is day one of drywall. So yesterday the drywall vendors crew came and unloaded a very large truck full of drywall. So I think those are 4x12s, and then we've got some, I think these are 4x10 or something like that. 9 foots, and then these are 54-inch by 12s, and anyway, there's a lot here. Another stack in the room over here, and this is just all for this floor. But so the crew arrived yesterday and unloaded all of this, and then a separate boarding crew of 2 showed up today and started the process, which I'll show you in a sec, upstairs. It has been a very long route getting here. It has been a lot of work getting the place ready for drywall, a lot more little tiny tasks than I anticipated it being, and it took a lot longer to get done. Just buttoning up all of the low voltage wires, getting the ceilings done. So all of the hydronic ceilings have been done, as you can see here. It gets a little bit complicated where the circuits exit, so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for them to do the drywall screwing, which I'll show you upstairs, compared to, say, over here where it's just all a standard pattern. And then the ones I really worry about are places like here where you have to divert around an opening. So that one's not too bad. I've only got the one tube that's diverting. But then over here, you've got the doubles. So the screw pattern is going to have to be measured really carefully. So basically they're doing every row in between these plates. Every 12 inches on center is what they're having to screw with 2.5-inch screws so that they get through the polyiso and into the foam, or sorry, into the OSB underneath. And then they can't use things like zip saws because in a lot of cases I have the pipes right up against the pennant. My mind's not working. The projection. Thank you. And then doing things like the window surround sub casings. So I'll show you upstairs, but we're going to be bringing what's called reglet right out to here. So I needed to make sure that my finished casing exposure on the windowsill was the same all the way around. So I had to, I found that using a soft foam or insulation like a rigid rock salt allowed me to vary the thickness from top to bottom, even up to 1/4 of an inch, by just adjusting how tightly I put the screws. And that allowed me to plumb up, or I guess plumb's not the right word, to have a consistent exposure going all the way up and around the frames. I chose to cover the vast majorities of the frames. I did that on the outside for thermal reasons. As you can see here, it comes right up to the edge of the window basically. So there's very little frame exposed. It increases the overall R value of the installed window significantly. And then on the inside, I just wanted the dark brown goes really well with the outside siding, but you don't necessarily want to see too much of it on the inside. And with these windows, the frame color is the same on both sides. And then I talked about earlier, the concrete at the bottom, the stub had bowed out a little bit, so we had to strap these walls. And I used that as an opportunity to put on some rigid foam and I've forgotten those 3 bays here, but wherever you see, wherever there's framing that wasn't strapped, that can now be covered with a 1/2 inch of rigid foam, increasing the R value because it's reducing the framing losses. We finished up boxing in the shelves on each side of the dining room hutch. These metal bands that you see at the bottom, they are for reglet as well. So let me explain what reglet is. If you Google drywall shadow lines, you'll see some examples. But basically, it's creating a channel in the drywall. So basically, your drywall is going to sit down where my finger is here, and then this area here is void of drywall. And in this particular case, I'm going to cover the bottom 1/8 of an inch with my floorboards, and then there will be a 1/2 inch gap that's left. And this will all be painted the same color, but what it does is it gives an architectural feature to the room without putting like crown moldings or ornate baseboards. My baseboards are basically just going to be square stock, either fir, or if we're going to paint them, then they'll just be MDF. So what else was there? The pocket doors. The pocket doors I got from the States, and I'll tell you about that in a sec. I'll look up the name on a piece of paper. But a friend of my neighbor's who is a builder had a tip. He does some high-end homes for his family. And when you're doing pocket doors, it's always a good idea to infill between the split studs with 3/4 ply. It makes the whole assembly a lot stronger, so you get a lot less door vibrations. It also gives some place for the drywall to be screwed, so again, that makes it stronger. Basically, I screwed in through the split studs into the edge on 3 of the panels where I could, or I guess 2 of the panels, and then where the other ones were, I just stapled on this side and then used some of my reglet backing, which is 3-inch wide metal stripping, and I can't remember the gauge, but it's pretty heavy gauge, and use that to attach it because there wasn't obviously a way to screw in on it. So what else can I say quickly here? I think, I'm just terminating all the electrical so it's out of the way for the zip saws when they do the walls, all that kind of stuff. I'm in the process of papering the floor just because we are going to be doing glue down floors, and the floor vendor asked for it not to be covered with drywall dust. I was going to do this at time of taping, but after today's drywall work, obviously I'm going to need to tape it now, and I'll show you in a sec. The pocket doors are Johnson hardware. I'm using the 1560 series, and I think I've also got a different, I think this is for 2x6, and I've also got one for 2x4 walls. It's a heavier duty frame. It has these metal clad split studs. So basically this is a metal channel that is then infilled with some wood to allow for things to be screwed to it. But again, in my case, I can glue and screw the drywall to the plywood as well. It has soft open and close hangers that go inside the track. These are sub casings or fake casings, just so that they know where to bring the reglet up to. So these have all been plumbed to the opening, and later on they'll come off, and a 3/4 inch fir stock will be put in there. So let's go have a quick look. Other things that were done, convert all of the railings so that they weren't on the face, so that I could face these with MDF. And what we're going to have is our stair nosing's going to go here, and we'll then route this out to the shape of the stairs with a 1/4 round over to the face of the finished flooring. So it'll just be a nice, smooth, simple transition between the walls and the flooring. We didn't want the exposed. You can get glue-on veneers to the exposed floor tread, the stair tread flooring, but we didn't like that look. It looks quite busy with this sort of step that you see on the side of it. This is a much nicer effect in our view. This little cubby here will be for the stereo equipment, so there will be 2 stereo receivers there, one to do the downstairs TV and one to do 4 different sound zones for ceiling speakers in the downstairs. Where this site chair is, these will be pull-out on roller pantries, so I can just roll them into the kitchen and then roll them back. And then these will be slide-out, permanent, fixed shelving units, either additional pantry or things like cleaning equipment and vacuum hoses and the like. What else is there to show you? Some blocking for a door. So this is the downstairs bathroom, and this wall is part of the braced wall band, the seismic strength system, and it had to be a minimum length. And so it made this, I still wanted to try to get as close as possible. Sorry, I'm shaking a bit. I only have my cell phone today as opposed to my good camera. I wanted to get that opening as close as possible to the 36 inches requirement of Safer Homes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just mount the frame of the door right to the wall as opposed to any framing out like studs. Blocking in behind the hanging toilets is a good idea. MDF. It's or cement board, but MDF is easier to match up to the drywall. It provides a firm, stable support for the hanging toilet so that it's not deflecting, and that's a really important addition. What else? Let's go upstairs. On this side, there's an MDF backer or facer. It's going to be, that's the permanent finish, so that the stair treads and risers will just butt up right against it. And then I'm doing a reglet edge down here, and then every third step there's a tread light that's going to shine up against the wall, and it's going to look pretty slick, I think. And again, up here we did the MDF so that it's just a bit, right now it's an inch off the subfloor, which means it's going to be ½ inch off the finished flooring, and we'll just do a ½ inch round over for a nice simple finished effect. So here's one of the reglets in place, and basically it will obviously this is just a sample, but that's the finished effect that you're going to see. So this will create a ½ inch gap. This will all be painted the same color, but the fact that it's a recessed will give you what's called that shadow line, and it makes I think a nice effect. So today, day one, they were here for, I think they arrived at 7:30. I think they got started at 8 after an initial breakdown of the job, and they left at 4. And so they've done this room. I'll just quickly show it. And so this is why I have to tape or paper the floors, because the floor guy is not going to be happy. I'm going to have to really well vacuum this and then probably wash it as well. So they're off the floor in this case by 6 inches. The floor is going to be ½ inch thick, a 5-inch baseboard, and then the ½ inch gap of the reglet goes in there. The reglet goes on top, and then it's taped to the drywall. So they've done a really good job. They asked me whether or not I wanted 3 or 4 screws, and I told them, look, this is my first time. I'm just the homeowner, but I want it done well, and I don't want any nail popping or anything like that. So what I found out what they were actually referring to is per stud on one sheet. So you can go 3 or you can go 4. And so they've done 4, and I think that's going to be a lot nicer. But they've done all of the first room, basically. And a little closet. They project the drywall on the front face on the closets out 1/2 inch. That'll then get a bead, a corner bead. And what that does is hides the gap in whatever door system you're going to have. I'm going to have sliders. There'll probably be wood doors, but they'll be on sliders. And it just hides the gap between the door and the edge of the opening. On the windows, they are leaving it cut back, and then the reglet's going to be flush with this surface, and then that is the gap that's being left, and then they'll just screw the reglet into the drywall. Now, the hard part, they said it's probably 3 times as hard as a normal ceiling. And that is the hydronic system. So there's a lot of screws. Basically, it's a 6-inch by 12-inch grid. The rows are 6 inches apart, and it has to be screwed at every 12 inches on center down those rows. So there is a lot of work transferring that all over. They've done a phenomenal job. I think they're getting used to it now, and they did the second smaller ceiling, but they did it much quicker, and I'll show you that in a sec. But it looks good, and then they mark out areas where the pipes are exiting the room, and therefore they're really close to the edge. So I'm feeling a sigh of relief, because I was really worried about how they were going to do this and not hit my pipes. And I've energized the pipes, so they're full of water. So if they hit one, we're going to know it. But they are almost impossible to plug. I'd have to seriously modify the panel, the hydronic panel. I'd have to somehow notch out the end enough to put a coupling in on 2 sides, kind of thing. I've done some wet board work. I need to do some more, which I'm going to do once they have finished up here, which is going to be tomorrow. They're going to finish, the room behind me is done, and then they're finishing this clerestory, and then they're going to move downstairs. And they're doing that so that room can be taped, and this area can be taped, and then I'm going to move my office into there, and then I'll also be able to take down this scaffold for them. So you can see they've just done the back wall. This one's just going to have drywall returns, which is why it's not cut away from the edge. And then they've done the ceiling. The ceiling, only the pipes were only here and across there, and not over here, which is why you see a more traditional screwing pattern up here. So that's basically it. Like I said, it was a lot more work getting prepared for drywall than I anticipated. And then I also, because of my previous posting, I lost my window and had to reschedule. But getting all of the walls closed in is exciting. It means that I don't have anything more to do beneath the drywall, and that's been a long time getting there. This is one of the finished hydronic panels, and I've just got one circuit left on this one to do, and so I've just done a loop around just so that I could test the system, get all the air out. Right now, what I have is I have the cold line energized in the basement. I have all of the circuits on, and I have bled it out both directions down to the basement, the hot and the cold. So now if there's a hole anywhere, there's going to be pressure pushing that water out, and we'll know that there's a leak. Okay, I think that's all we need to look at. Thanks for visiting, and it is exciting times seeing this done, and I'll be happy that it's over. I'm relieved now that the crew's obviously handling the ceilings well, and I don't need to worry about that. And these two guys are great. They're young guys. They are very intelligent. They they understand English, and that's a big deal in the drywall industry. And so we can clearly communicate. And compared to yesterday, where the English was an issue, and there was a lot of stress with getting the drywall in the right locations, today was a lot less stressful, and it means that now I can concentrate on my own things and finishing off what I need to get done and what I can get done during the drywall phase. They are potentially going to take 3 to 4 weeks. I was not necessarily counting on that. Obviously, I underestimate everything. I had thought maybe 2 weeks at the most. I was being severely optimistic. It obviously also depends on the size of crew. It means that I can breathe a little bit more easier now, and I'm not going to have nearly the same hours. The day before the drywall was delivered, I had I think it was a 16 and a quarter hour day. And this week already it's Wednesday, and I've had well over 60 hours for the week, and my week starts Saturday morning. So it's been a bit extreme, and I'm going to look forward to just taking it down a few notches. Okay, so enough talking. Thanks for the visit, and we'll talk to you again soon.